broken heart declare His peace. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power, and He's fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. So open up the gates. So open up the gates. Make way before the King of Kings. God who comes to save, the sheep and set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power, and He's fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. For who can stop the Lord? Come on, church. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Come on, sing this over everything in our lives. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power, and He's fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him.
I can't explain. A love that wonder, boy, is here now. Can you feel it now? Let it cover you. Let the Spirit rise up and break through the walls, beat down the doors, crash through the windows, and cover the earth, the earth, the earth. Let the Spirit rise up, break through the walls, beat down the doors, crash through the windows, and cover the earth. the earth, the earth, the earth. Bullets won't hold it in, and lies won't hold it down. Love will let it out, and we will let it drown. The darkness, the fears and brokenness, can you feel it now? Let it cover you.
Let the Spirit rise up, break the walls, beat down the doors, crush through the windows, cover the earth, the earth. Let the Spirit rise up, break the walls, beat down the doors, crush through the windows, and cover the earth, the earth. Fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Let the Spirit rise up, break through the walls, beat down the doors, crash through the windows, cover the earth, the earth, the earth. Let the Spirit rise up, break through the walls, beat down the doors, crash through the windows, cover the earth, the earth, the earth.
I read this week in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 6, where Isaiah, he has this vision of entering into the presence of God. And my favorite translations say, woe is me, I am undone, I am unworthy, I am as good as dead, because of how powerful God's presence was. And it just made me think that sometimes I think in our lives we make God so small. We make his presence so small. And for me personally, sometimes it takes a second to take my eyes off of him and put them on my situation and my valley, my problem. And it's like the chains of fear, of doubt, of insecurity, unworthiness, of shame. They come in and they want to take residence. And if I've been reminded of anything this year, it is that all of those things don't stand a chance in the presence of God. And the best part about it is we don't have to wait for a vision from God to be in his presence. His presence is here. He left the Spirit of God here. He is in this place. He is among us. And even better than that, if it gets better, is that he's within us. We get to take him out of the walls and the doors and the windows of this place. We get to have access to him 24/7 and give him away to a world who needs him so bad. So I want to sing this bridge again. Everybody's heard it. It's a new song. But I want to declare this truth together in this room. That fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. And shame has no choice but to leave in the presence of a big and a powerful God. So let's sing this again. Let's sing it again together.
Fear has no choice but to bow, and chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Fear has no choice but to bow, and chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence.
You got it, let's sing.
Fear has no choice but to bow.
We believe it.
Chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. Shame has no choice but to leave in your presence.
Fear has no choice but to bow. Chains have no choice but to break. And shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. And fear has no choice but to bow. And chains have no choice but to break. And shame has no choice but to leave in your presence. Let the Spirit rise up, break through the walls, beat down the doors, crash through the windows, and cover the earth, the earth, the earth. Let the Spirit rise up, break through the walls, beat down the doors, crash through the windows, and cover the earth, the earth, the earth.
God, we are thankful that your presence is here. We are thankful that it's available to each of us. May we never take it for granted, and may we never forget that you are not a Band-Aid or a backup plan, God, but you are big and you are powerful. Lord, will you speak to us through your words today? We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, Rock Church. How's everybody doing? You good? Good. Man, it's good to see you guys after Thanksgiving. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you're kind of like me and you put on a few pounds and ate a lot of food and had a great time and made it through Black Friday. Did anybody go out like all night? Like you were that person that went out late? Okay, a couple of y'all went to those late night things. That's crazy. But anyway, hey, if you happen to be new with us, my name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here and just really glad that you're with us. And also want to take a second to welcome some others that are with us, people who are joining online, maybe people who are joining on demand later on, people who are at our C3 coffee bar. We're glad that you guys are with us. Let's give it up for everybody watching online or wherever they might be. So good. So it's one of my favorite times of the year, right? Because as you come into this point of the year, you've got a mix of a couple different things. One, you've got college football season, getting ready to go into the bowls, getting ready to go into the college playoff, getting ready to look at the Notre Dame team that's 12-0. Thank you. One person. I don't know where you were, but thank you. Whoever said that, thank you. All right. And I know that my team is on a collision course for your team, right? And I'm okay with that. If they meet in the playoff, if that means Clemson wins next week, which I hope they do, then we should probably meet in the playoff. And that'll be perfect because hopefully Notre Dame will win. But if they don't, I like Clemson and it'll be a great day. All right. So, yeah. So I love this time of year because it's a great football time. You got college basketball happening this week. Tuesday at 9:30, Indiana plays Duke. That's a great game in case anybody else cares. I feel like I'm preaching to myself right now because I'm the only one that cares about that game. But it's just a great time. And then obviously you have all the Christmas stuff, right? And we love Christmas. We have all of our favorite things when it comes to Christmas season. You know, you get your favorite traditions, like maybe you go out and cut down a tree, or maybe you're the person that pulls your tree out of a box. I'm sorry for you, but at least you're putting one up. Maybe you hang ornaments on your tree, or maybe you buy ornaments for your children, and all those good things. Or maybe it's about the food that you get to eat at Christmas, right? I mean, that's one of the great things. There's always Christmas snacks, right? There's Christmas cookies, Christmas desserts. Some of you eat fruitcake, which that's weird. Some of you drink eggnog. Anybody eggnog fans in here? Like I have been surprised all weekend long because I don't do eggnog. I don't think eggnog has ever touched my lips. I have no clue what it tastes like, all right? My mindset of eggnog is like egg yolks, right? Like it's rocky, all right? But we were sitting in the office this week, and Matt Brown, who's one of our pastors, we started talking about our favorite things of Christmas, and he goes, eggnog. I was like, eggnog? He goes, oh yeah. Everybody else wonders, when is it too early to listen to Christmas music? I wonder, when is it too early to start drinking eggnog? I'm like, I've never heard that before in my life, all right? So eggnog, weird. But the other things that maybe it's the favorite music time, favorite movie time. Right, you have your Rudolph, you have your The Year Without a Santa Claus. Anybody remember that one? The Heat Miser. That one was my favorite claymation, right? And then you have Hallmark Channel. Any Hallmark Channel people? Okay, so hopefully if you're raising your hand or wooing, you're a girl, okay? We had somebody in the 9 o'clock, a dude, he was proud of it. He's like, I love it. And I'm just like, bro, man card, all right? I need that man card we passed out in June, all right? Because if you're a man, what I would expect during the Christmas holidays, you're watching things like Buddy the Elf, you're watching the Christmas Vacation, things like that, all right? And this week we had our staff Christmas party, and I was told that everybody had to dress up like some kind of tacky Christmas. So I didn't know what to wear, so I wore this. So if you don't know, my name in this would be Cousin Eddie. Okay, so a couple of you are with me. I'm not just wearing a bathrobe because it's something fun to do at a Christmas party. All right, that is straight from Christmas Vacation. I did have the penny loafers on with the black socks. All right, there is a little cigar in my hand here. Not that I smoked it or anything. But this was the look. All right, and as good as that is, I didn't win. You would think I would have won with that, all right? But the one who won was Hannah, all right? And if you can't tell, Hannah won because she's wearing a picture that they photoshopped of Clay, our student pastor, posing, okay? So now, guys, I just want you to know, I always say the 12 o'clock gets something special. No other service has seen this picture, all right? And you're probably like, good. But this is our staff, so she won with that, and so this was everybody that day, and we had a good time. And what this is people who work, on the church side. This is people who work part-time for the coffee bar. These are elders of our church. There's just a whole group of people. And we had a great time at our Christmas party, talking, laughing, thinking about Christmas, right? And playing games about Christmas. And it's that time of year. And I know one thing as a staff that we are very excited about is our Christmas services. And, before I dive into the message, I want to take just a moment and talk about them, because this year, I really believe it'll be the biggest and best year at the Christmas at the Rock that we've ever had. But it comes with a lot of explanation, all right, that we have to see, because 4 years ago, we had 2 Christmas services in one location. This year, we're going to have 14 in 7 locations, if I remember right. All right, so yeah. It's exciting. It's crazy. Now, 7 of those are at our J. Rubin campus. That we have 7 different services. We do them in each housing, each residential unit there. But we're doing services here. We're doing services at Coastal. Doing services at Vegas. Doing services in our coffee bar. But we're also going to Georgetown and Aner. And you might ask, why are we doing Christmas services in Georgetown? Or why are we doing Christmas services in Aner? And the reason why is because there are people in those towns that matter to God. And there's people in those towns that you know. that I know that you have a desire to see them have a chance to experience maybe what you get to experience on a weekly basis, all right? Yet, let's say that you live in Georgetown. It's difficult to get somebody to drive from Georgetown to Conway every week, all right? But you have friends there that you're like, man, I would love to invite him to experience what I get to experience weekly on Christmas. Or maybe you have friends in Aner or family in Aner, and I know Aner's closer, but it's still a good distance up the road, all right? And maybe you know some teenagers, you know some people there, you're like, man, I want them to have a chance to go to a life-giving church. So we need your help on that. So here's one way to illustrate it. Do me a favor. If you live or know people, all right? So either one, if you live or know people that live in Aner or Georgetown, one or the other, raise your hand. Just go ahead and raise your hand, all right? So if you'll notice, most of the people in the room know at least one person. And what I want to challenge you to do is get the message out. Because we can put information on Facebook, we can throw marketing out there, we can do ads, but nothing is like a personal invitation. And statistics show that during the Christmas season, people are more inclined to go to church. So I want to encourage you to invite them, all right? If you know people in Georgetown or Aner or live there, invite them and then go to that service, all right? Now, you can still come on Sunday morning or Christmas Eve to the services that are here in Conway, but if you invite somebody to go to Georgetown or Aner, go with them so that they have somebody to sit with, so that they know someone who's there, all right? And then if you know somebody that lives in the Conway area or in the beach area, invite them to Conway or to our coastal service and then go with them there, all right? Use this opportunity. Use the cards that are on your chairs. If you want more of those, they're in the Connect corner. If you want some that are specific to Georgetown or specific to Aner, go to the Connect corner. They're there as well, all right? And because we got to get word out, and I need your help to do that. And guys, with all that, it makes me a little anxious, I'll be honest, all right? Maybe I shouldn't confess this as your pastor, but I start looking at everything that we're doing about Christmas, and I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to that day coming, looking forward to all the different services we'll have. On Thursday night beforehand, we'll have a big night of worship. I'm fired up about it, but I'm also anxious. I'm also nervous. I mean, there's part of me that goes, well, what if no one shows up in Georgetown? You know what I mean? Like, what happens if all the volunteers turn and look at me and go, Josh, what were you thinking? Why did we come here? Why did we do this? Why did we make this investment? Why did we go to Aner if there's only a few people? You know what I mean? Like there could be some nervousness in me. There could be some worry in me. All right? And that's not good, because what ends up happening where I should be focused on the Christmas wonder is I start worrying about everything that is to come. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like I get to that point where instead of worshiping the wonder of it all, I worry and get lost in the wonder of it all. You see the difference there? Like, maybe if I put it here, it'll make more sense. That many times we worry and get lost in the wonder of it all. Like, there's so much going on at Christmas, all right? And I know your life is no different than mine, that you've got parties, you've got plans, you've got things that you're buying for your kids, and then you're hoping your kids will actually enjoy them. Like when they were kids, you didn't worry about it, right? Like, hand them a toy, they're going to be happy. And if they don't like the toy, they'll love the box, all right? But maybe if you have teenagers, you're like, I have no clue, right? Like, will they like what I'm going to buy them? And then how am I going to pay for it? And we can get lost and worry about the wonder of it all, rather than worshiping the wonder of it all. That our Christmas wonder turns into Christmas worry in a hurry. But what we need to do is we need to let that stuff go, and we need to focus on the wonder. And the wonder, it has a name, and the name is Jesus Christ. And Jesus and his presence is our biggest present at the Christmas season. So here's my prayer. Here's my prayer. Because like I say, I could get nervous and I could worry and I could get lost in it all. Here's my prayer for me. Here's my prayer for you. Here's my prayer for our entire church. That we would not worry and get lost in the wonder of it all, but that we would worship the wonder of it all. And that we would recognize his presence, and that we would come to an understanding that God is real. That he is real, and he wants to be present in your life. And all through this Christmas season, I want us just to constantly looking at this idea of God becoming real in your life. That's my prayer for me. It's my prayer for you. And it's a prayer that I see in the life of Moses. Now, Moses was a guy that lived about 4,000 years ago, okay? So a long time ago. We see some stuff in the Bible and the ancient scriptures that talk about him. And this guy named Moses, he had a job to do. He had a calling that God had given him to take the people, the Israelites, to the promised land. And as he was doing that, he said a prayer to God saying, God, if I'm going to take these people to the promised land, then I have some things I want to ask of you. All right. And in the same way that he was trying to get a group of people to a certain destination, it's kind of like what I'm thinking about right now, that I want us as a group of people to get to a certain destination. And it's not just our Christmas services. It's recognizing on a daily basis the wonder of it all in our lives, the great wonder that God is real. So I'm offering a prayer just like Moses did. And so let's just look at Moses' prayer and let's just kind of pick it apart this morning. It says this in Exodus chapter 33, verse 12. Moses said to the Lord, see, you say to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. All right. Now let's just take a time out here and let's just look at this, because there's this big question that Moses is asking. He's saying, I want to know who you're going to send with me. That God, you are asking me to take your people to the promised land. And God, if you're asking me to do that, then I want to know who you're going to send with me, all right? It's an honest prayer. It's a request that Moses is kind of sharing with God. He's kind of saying, God, I need you to kind of hear what's on my heart right now. But I want you to see the irony of his request, because even in his statement, he's saying something that he's really answering his own question. He says, God, I want to know who you're going to send with me. Well, you said people, right? I'm to take these people. So God is saying, well, I'm going to send people with you. And that's good, right? I mean, Moses doesn't want to go on this long journey by himself, that he wants the people to get to the promised land. All right, just like as a church, I don't want just us to come into contact with God. I want every person we can possibly come in contact with to come into contact with God, right? That's why we go to Georgetown. It's not just so we can go and do a church service in Georgetown. No, it's so that we, as people here, can get with our friends and our family and our coworkers and people that we do sports with and all that who lived in Georgetown and come together, all right? And that would be great if a bunch of people came together in Georgetown, or a bunch of people came together in Ain or in Conway or Coastal Vegas, wherever we're at. That would be good, but what Moses says is, but it's not good enough. I want you to see this, all right? It's this little bitty thing hidden in this scripture that Moses says, I want to know who you're sending with me. God's like, well, I'm sending people. And Moses is like, well, that's good, but it's not good enough. Well, God also said to Moses, he said, well, Moses, I'm going to send an angel with you, all right? Before this chapter hit, earlier in the book, God said, Moses, I want you to know I'm going to send an angel before you. I've got a job for you. I've got a calling for you, and I'm going to send an angel in front of you. He's going to clear a path. He's going to fight for you. He's going to make it where you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. I want you to think about whatever it is in life you're wanting to accomplish. Maybe you're in high school and you're like, man, I just want to graduate. Or maybe I want to get into this college. Maybe you're in college and you're like, man, I want to make it through my freshman year and still be getting scholarships at the end, right? I want to make good enough grades. Or maybe it's like, man, I want to get out of college and get a job in this field. Or I want to find a spouse. Or maybe you're married and you're like, man, I want to have kids. Or we want to find a new job. Or whatever it is. Maybe you got health problems and you're just like, man, I just want to make it through that. Whatever it is, think about the thing that you're wanting to accomplish right now. And imagine God looking at you and calling you by name and saying, all right, well, this is what I know you want to accomplish, and this is what I've got for you. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an angel. And an angel's going to go before you, and an angel's going to clear the way, and an angel's going to fight for you so that you can accomplish what you want to do. I think all of us in this room, I'm going to go ahead and say, I think all of us in this room would go, okay, God, you're going to give me an angel, and the angel's going to fight for me, he's going to clear the path, and I'm going to be successful. Sign me up, right? I mean, like, isn't that, like, you'd be like, all right, I feel pretty good about this. I got an angel going before me. And Moses had been told that by God. Moses, you're going to have an angel. But you know what Moses said? That's good, but that's not good enough. Like, God, I'm glad you're sending people with me. That's good, but that's not good enough. And God, I'm glad you're going to send an angel with me. And that's great, but that's not good enough. There's one thing missing, God, that I still need. I want the people and I want the angel, but I also want your favor. He says, I want your favor. He's saying, God, if I have found favor in your sight, then that's what I want. Let me read the next verse and then I'll explain this a little bit. This next verse, he says this way. Now, therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider, too, that this nation is your own people. All right? What Moses is saying here is he's saying, God, you've said that I have found favor, and if I found favor, then I want to find it again. All right? And the secret is in that word favor. Now, let me take a second. Let me just talk about the favor of the Lord. And if this is all new to you, maybe it's your first time in church, maybe you don't really know who Jesus is, haven't been walking out a life of faith, and you'll be like, all right, explain favor. But if you have a church background, if you've been doing Christianity for a while, when I say that I want to explain favor to you, you might go, ugh, man, I've heard that word favor before. Josh, you getting ready to go Joe Osteen on me? You know what I mean? Like I saw some of you, y'all playing on your phones. All of a sudden you look up, you say, what did he say? You know what I mean? Because right? Like I say favor, and we think, well, is he getting ready to talk prosperity gospel a little bit? And see, that's the problem. Unfortunately, again, if you're not in that Christian circle, then you might not recognize this. But in that Christian circle, this word favor has kind of been hijacked by this idea of prosperity gospel, which is no gospel at all, okay? So I need to take some time and I need to talk about favor, because reality is it's mentioned in the Bible almost 200 times. If God is going to put it in his word almost 200 times, I think he's trying to communicate something to us. He's trying to communicate something that maybe we don't understand, because maybe we thought, well, is that about prosperity, or is that about like God doing favors for me? Which I think we would all appreciate. We'd all like to say, yeah, I'd love for God to do favors for me. But we think that favor means favors. We think, well, if I have God's favor, then he's going to give me a parking spot at the mall this afternoon when it's crowded and I'm trying to go shopping. That God's going to do me a favor. He's going to send me a check in the mail because I spent way too much money on Friday, right? Like God's going to do me a favor. He's going to make this happen because I have the favor of the Lord. Means I get favors from God. Nope, that's not what it means. Or maybe you go, well, if I have God's favor, then that means I'm his favorite. Like that he favors you more than he favors someone else. Nope. Now, you are his favorite, but so is the person next to you. And so is the person down the aisle. Like, think about your kids. Like, you'd look at your kids and you wouldn't say, well, this one's my favorite and that one's not, right? Maybe you would, I don't know. But God, what God does is he looks at each and every one of us and says, you're my favorite, you're my favorite, you're my favorite. That's not what favor of the Lord is. So what is it? What does it mean? What is Moses saying when he's saying, God, I want your favor? Well, if you look at the word favor, if we're to go back and really study it, it means this. That he's saying, God, I want your presence. I want your presence, God. And that's the reason he's saying, God, I want to know who's going to go with me. The people, yeah, that's good, but not good enough. Yeah, the angel, that's great, but that's still not good enough. God, I want the people to come and I want the angel to come. But more than that, God, I want you to come. And if you're not going to come, then I don't want to go. He's saying, God, I need you. And I think the same thing as a church, all right? That I don't want us to go into the Christmas season if God's not going in the season with us. That I don't want to go to Georgetown. I don't want to go to Aner. I don't want to go to Coastal. I don't want to go to Vegas. I don't want to go to Africa. I don't want to go wherever God's sending us unless God is going with us, because we need his presence. We need his presence. Now, God looked at Moses and he said, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. I'll give you my presence. And that's what we should want as well. But how do we get it? Well, it comes when we're willing to surrender. So I want you to look at something, and we're going to talk a lot about surrender next week. But the Israelites, they were actually camping out over here. When all this has happened, the Israelites were camping out, and Moses was over here, and God was with Moses. Moses and God weren't with the Israelites at the time, all right? They're close, but they're not in the same camp. And the reason why is because the Israelites hadn't surrendered their lives. And Moses is saying, God, I want you to go with the Israelites. I want us to do this, and we got to get them to surrender. I need them to surrender. I know you want them to surrender, and the people will surrender. But at this point, they hadn't. But you flip that to the New Testament, you go look at the biographies of Jesus. Specifically, if you look at the book of Matthew and the book of Luke, which we have recorded in the Bible. All right? These are eyewitnesses. These are guys who wrote about Jesus, and they talked about a lady named Mary. And again, we'll study her a lot next week. But Mary, when given a message by God, said, I surrender, I submit. May it be to me as you have said. The Israelites, I'm not really ready to surrender and submit to you, God. Mary said, I'm willing to submit. And Mary received the presence of God. So if we want the presence of God in our lives, well, then we need to surrender. We need to submit. And when we do that, well, then we get the presence. And with presence comes distinction. Comes distinction. A distinction means that you're known, meaning that you know who you serve. Let me read it. It says this. And he said to him, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight and I in your people? All right, so that's what we just covered. And then it says this. Is it not in your going with us so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? God, if your presence goes with us, then it'll make me distinct and people will recognize who I serve. Now, a great illustration of this happened last night. About 7 o'clock last night, some of you were wearing orange and some of you were wearing garnet. All right? Like you could tell who people were rooting for then. Same thing happens at church. Some of you are wearing orange and some of you are wearing garnet. All right? Some of you are happy this morning. Some of you are faithful this morning, okay? But you're representing who it is you're for, right? And we all do that. Think of it in the way of flags, all right? In our state flag, we have a palmetto and a crescent. And if you see that, you know that person is South Carolina. That person is for South Carolina. Think about the American flag. You got the stars and the stripes. You're saying that person is for America. They're from US of A, all right? And the way we distinguish ourselves today is really no different than people did back then. No, they didn't watch football and do it that way, but they did have their colors. They did have their flags, all right? But they also had their gods. And countries were known, all right? We're talking about back in the Bible days, that countries were known by the God they served. This country was known by this God, and that's who they served. And this country was known by this God. And this country, the Israelites, Moses is saying, God, if you don't go with us, then nothing will distinguish us. We won't be distinct. So God, we got to have you because we need to be distinct. We need people to realize that we serve you and only you. And if we have you in our lives and if you're with us, then that's what's going to be made known and that's what's going to make the difference. Again, I want you to think about it as a church. Let's say we go down to Georgetown or we go up to Aner and we come in and we have a band and we have music and we have lights and we have haze and we don't have God, then what do we have? We just have another concert coming to town, right? And if that's it, then we're wasting money, we're wasting time, we're wasting energy, we're wasting resources. But if we have God, and God is what makes us different, well, then it's worth it. Which is no different than what happens here every weekend, Thursday nights and Sundays. That if we don't have God, then what makes us distinct? But what I hope is that when you come into the Rock each morning or each evening, you walk in and you go, man, there's something different. I hope maybe the first time you visited here, maybe it's today or maybe it was a month ago, that when you walked in, you said, man, I was loved well, I was greeted well, but there was something different in the air. There was something different in the room. And that difference is the presence of God. And that's what makes us known. That's what Moses was saying, what makes us distinct. He said, I and your people from every other people on the face of the earth, that we want to be known because of your presence. But there's one other thing that distinction does, is distinction helps you to be known. Helps you to be known on who you serve and who you are. And let's think about this for a second. All of us want to be known. If you have social media, that's proof in itself, right? Because when you post something on social media, you'll go back later and you'll look and you'll say, how many likes do I have, right? You'll be like, if I did this and then somebody comment on it, you're like, oh, that's good, right? Like my daughter, she's a huge theater fan, and a couple weeks ago for her 21st birthday, we took her to New York, and we went to a show, and then after the show, she tweeted about the show, and then next thing you know, she got retweeted by the director, and retweeted by one of the actors, and retweeted by one of the Go-Go girls, and it was all these things. She's like, Dad, look, man, like famous people are recognizing me. You know what I mean? It was like a big deal, and that's all good, all right? But it just goes to show that we want to be known. Another way that illustrates this is just think about Christmas, right? Like for you students who are in the room, you know what it's like. You'll be sitting in the living room. Mom or dad will be back in the bedroom. They'll be wrapping presents, and they start carrying out the presents, and maybe they got two in their hand, and one's like this little box on top, and one's a big box, and you're like, I hope that big box is mine. Right? You're like, man, I wonder what's in that big box. I hope that's mine. And they set it down. Then you scurry over to the tree and you look at the name tag real quick. And if your name's on it, you're like, yes. And you're like, man, I hope it's this. I've been wanting this. I've been dropping hints. I hope this is it. Maybe if you're an adult, you can remember back to these days, right? And you're just waiting for Christmas morning. You see that box. It's got your name on it. You're like, man, I just hope it's the right thing. And sure enough, it happens. You're like, I want to open this one first. They're like, nope. Got to open that one last, all right? And you're like, you know. And then you get to the big box and you open it up and it's exactly what you wanted. And you look up at your parents, you're like, how did you know? And they're like, because you wouldn't shut up about it, right? But reality, they know because they know you. They know what you want. And as a parent, if at all possible, we'll give you what you want and what you need, if at all possible. Because as a dad, I know my kids. You have a dad that knows you. And he knows what you want, and he knows what you need. And he has the power to give it to you if it is what is best for your life. And he wants to give it to you. And the best thing that he wants to give you, the greatest thing that he wants to give you, the most wonderful thing that he wants to give you is his presence. He wants to give you his presence because he looks at you and he says, I know you and I want you to know me. Look back at this verse. The Lord replied to Moses, I will indeed do what you have asked for I look favorably. I give you my presence, which gives you distinction, which makes you known on you. And I know you by name. So I have a gift that I want to give you. And it's a gift of my presence. It's a gift of a relationship. And to that, then Moses replies this way. He says, Moses responded, then show me Then show me your glorious presence. God, that's what I want. I want to know you. I want to know that you are real. I want to see you. I want to know that I have found favor in your sight. And if you're saying that I have found favor, then help me to find favor. Help me to find you. Help me to see you. And what God did on that day for Moses, he said, all right, I'll show you. I'm going to give you a gift of my presence. And he said, I'm going to pass by. I'm going to hide you in a rock. And when I pass by, once I get past you, I'm going to remove my hand and I'm going to let you know who I am. And this is what he said in Exodus 34. It says, Yahweh the Lord. This is God speaking. Yahweh the Lord. He's saying, this is my name. This is who I am. I am the God of compassion and mercy. I am slow to anger and filled with unfailing love and faithfulness. I lavish unfailing love to 1,000 generations. I forgive iniquity, rebellion, and sin. God passes in front of Moses, and as he's passing in front of Moses, he says, I am God, and I am good. And I want to give you my grace, and I want to give you my presence. And I want you to see what Moses did. And Moses immediately threw himself to the ground and worshiped. Moses immediately, he fell down in front of God because in that moment, God became real and he realized the wonder that he was in front of. He realized how wonderful God was. He became real, so he fell down and he worshiped. And guys, that was 4,000 years ago. But the same thing happened about 2,000 years ago. You see, in the same way, God became real again, and he came and he showed himself to people. 4,000 years ago, he showed himself to Moses. 2,000 years ago, God came in the form of a man who we call Jesus. That God gave up heaven and he came to this earth and he gifted us with his presence. And then through Jesus Christ, Jesus lived on this earth for about 33 years. That he developed some friendships with some guys that we call the apostles or the disciples. And he walked with them and he taught them and he showed them who God was. And he gifted them with his presence. But then he was arrested. He died on a cross. He rose from the dead. But when he rose from the dead, he showed himself again to his disciples, his apostles. And on that day, God became real to them. And they worshiped. But it didn't just stop with the disciples. From that day forward, for the last 2,000 years, because of Jesus saying, I'm getting ready to leave now, but when I leave, I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit. And you're going to have my presence with you every day. And that my presence is not just with you, my presence can be in you through the gift of salvation. And since then, from now about the last 2,000 years, people have been coming in contact with God, and God has become real to them. So let me ask this question of you. When did God become real to you? See, because 4,000 years ago, God became real to Moses. 2,000 years ago, God became real to the disciples. But when did he become real to you? Or have you got lost in the wonder of it all? Like if you got lost in everything that goes on in life and everything that goes on around Christmas, and in the midst of it all, you've forgotten what it's all about. Or has there been a day in your life where you went, man, on this day, God became real? Maybe it was about 5 years ago that maybe you were in the bottom of the barrel. Maybe life was just bad. And maybe you cried out. And you said, God, I need your help. God, I need you. And you probably didn't say, God, I need your favor. Probably wasn't the word you used. But when you say, God, I need you to show up, I need your help, what you're asking for is God's favor. Because you're saying, God, I need you to come, and I need you to lean in, and I need you to share what you have. And what does he have? Goodness, forgiveness, love, grace. And he says, let me share that with you through my presence. And maybe 5 years ago you go, man, I remember that day that happened. Or maybe for you it was 20 years ago that you recognized who God was. Or maybe for you it was last week. Or maybe it's today. Maybe it's November 25th, 2018. That you say, man, today's the day that I recognize that God is real and that he gives me a gift of his presence. You know, throughout this entire series, all the way up till Christmas, that we have these Christmas tags. On the one side, it says the big wonder. On the back side, it says, God became real to me when ... And where they're placed is up front on the stage. Over on this side, they're by the communion and the baptistry area. On this side, it's by communion and our little prayer area. And what I want to invite you to do during this response time is I want to invite you to feel free to come up front and to grab one of these cards. There's a Sharpie up there, and for you just to write out, when did God become real to you? Again, maybe it was 20 years ago, maybe it was 5 years ago, maybe it was 5 days ago, maybe it's today. And that you just say, man, this is when God became real. Maybe it's a date that you put on there, or maybe it's a story, maybe it's a testimony. Now, I want you to invite you to come up and just write it and then just leave it there. All Christmas season, we're going to be doing this at every service. Because what we want to see through this whole series and this whole season is how the big wonder became real in your life. And we want to make sure as we go through this next month, this next Christmas season, that we don't get lost in it all, but that we worship the wonder of it all. So I want to invite you to do that. And maybe today will be the first time you've ever done that. Maybe today will be the day that you say, I'm ready to surrender. Maybe today will be the day you say, man, I'm ready to sacrifice. Maybe today will be the day you go, wow, I'm significant because God knows my name and he gives me a gift. And I want to invite you to respond to Christ. You come up front, you do that, and then I'll be standing right there at the Connect doors. I'd love to talk to you further about that. If you're watching online or at C3, there's a host there that will take care of you. I want you to do me a favor. Let's stand up. I'm going to pray, and then we'll move into a time of response. Jesus, I thank you for this morning. I thank you that we can come into your presence right now. That you give us that gift. And God, I pray that we won't slide it, that we won't push it to the side, that we won't forget it, but that we'll recognize how wonderful that is. And that we will worship you, the great wonder, because of the way that you're becoming real in our lives. God, help us to respond. In your name, amen.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You've been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You've been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves 99. I can learn, I don't deserve. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. or foe, still your love for me. You've been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You've been so, so kind to me. Every voice, holy, overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds still I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn, I don't deserve, still you give yourself away. Holy, overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Come on. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Lead me to you forever, Lord. I will pursue, I will pursue. You've won my heart, Jesus, you're all that I want, all that I want, Lord. Lead me to you forever, Lord. I will pursue, I will pursue. You've won my heart, Jesus, you're all that I want, all that I want. All I need is you, Lord. Is you, Lord. All I need is you.